Yeah, I appreciate everyone being here. Before I start talking about football, I do want to recognize volleyball and soccer for some big-time victories yesterday. Credit Coach Dory, Coach Armstrong, their staffs, their players particularly, for a great job well done. So always good to see success in the athletic department. Those are two big-time wins yesterday from their programs. Obviously, it's always tough to get a road win in the SEC. So very proud of the guys and everyone for their efforts last 2 weeks preparing for that game. Road victories are difficult, and so to get one is huge. And we have another opportunity in front of us this weekend going out to Auburn. Very talented football team. They're going to be hungry to compete and get a win. And so it's back to work for us. All right, we got to dig into the film, get back on the practice field, continue to build upon the good things that we did in the game and clean up some things. I've got another tremendous opportunity in front of us this weekend. I think I've said all month that October is a critical month for us. So we got one more opportunity to keep it going. So with that, I'll open it up to questions, but I will say, you know, to get road victories, you do need players to step up and have some big time moments. And I got to recognize, I mean, Bookie Watson just got announced as SEC Defensive Player of the Week. It was one of the more impressive games I've ever had the privilege of seeing a linebacker play. We're going to need more guys to step up and have performances like that as we finish out this season. But I did want to recognize him. I think the conference just recognized him. I wouldn't be shocked if he's up for contention on National Player of the Week too. I don't know if they give that award, but anyway, with that, I'll open up the questions.
Coach, I know when you go back and do your film review, you look at decision-making processes. Fourth down, there were some critical fourth downs. Other times you took a delay of game penalty to give some room to punt. Other times you elected to go for it. Kind of looking back at hindsight, especially that final fourth down, I mean, kind of what was the thought process behind when you went for it and when you did?
Well, that was the shortest one of all. Any fourth down, so we did decide to go for it. And it was inside of a yard. It was a half a yard. Other times, I know there's one was a 4th and 4 after a scramble. Another one was a 4th and 2 or 3, right around there. It's just you're constantly evaluating. All right, what's our game plan? Do we feel really good about our short yardage call? How's the flow of the game going? You know, I made a decision several times that the defense was obviously playing well. Their 3 points came off of a turnover on the opening drive where they got started with the ball deep in the territory. And so they really had not allowed the offense to march the length of the field and score points. And so obviously that is why you try to punt it down in there and create a long field. There are certain down and distance where you feel like you got to be able to get that yardage, you know, if you're going to win a football game. Inside of the yard there, I think we had just ran, you know, we had the touchdown called back just before that, I believe. So we felt good about our play. Felt good about our plan in that down and distance. An opportunity to create some huge momentum and go try to take the game. Obviously, we didn't execute the alignment, and it worked out in our favor there.
On the Hail Mary at the end, just curious, how often is that, I guess, play practice and
every week? Yeah, every team works that every week. Yeah.
You called the timeout there. Well, what's just discussed there right before that play?
Well, you want to see the formation, right? Make sure it matches up with what you've seen on film, scouting ahead of time, which it was. So the defensive staff knew exactly what was coming there, and then you can obviously kind of get some final coaching points. I mean, you don't get to take those timeouts into the next game, so you have a chance there to kind of review some critical coaching points with your guys, because that's one play in my history coaching that you work it every week, but just because of the adrenaline and the situation of the game, sometimes what the coaching points that you emphasize don't always get executed. Right? Usually you try to hammer home. You have one primary ball guy. Everyone else is to keep a body on their man, and you don't want everyone playing the ball because that's how you get a tip ball where it's, you know, and then a trailer guy becomes available to catch it, and you give up a cheap touchdown to lose a game. And so you can call timeout and kind of review all those critical coaching points in order to successful execution of that play.
And then a little bit of an topic question. In the world of college football, you have the sign stealing stuff going on with Michigan. I'm just curious, how often during the year do you talk about that with the staff, about just keeping things fresh with signs and in case things are other teams are looking at film and stuff like that?
Sign stealing is not illegal, right? I mean, you know, obviously there's people on the opposing sidelines. We're up in the box, always looking at whoever your signaler is. I guess I'm gonna have to. When I call the defense, and I think it's the same way we're doing it now, we just have one primary signal caller giving it, so it's not something we really spend a whole lot of time concerning ourselves with. You know, a lot of that has to do with, depending on how the opponent does tempo too, or how long you hold your call, how realistic it is to even think that you can get all that information and process. You know, I mean, defensive guys try to see if they can figure out the opposing offensive guys play in signal. But if they're snapping the ball every 10 seconds, you don't have time for all that. So,
John.
Zach, what did you kind of think about Mike, like after, you know, looking at the film again after that first week, and did you kind of feel limited in what you could do with him, or do you just kind of chalk up the overall offensive performance to it being his first week as the starter?
well, it's his first game playing, you know, that many snaps. He's got some good plays on there. He's got some plays he's obviously not going to be happy about. You know, I think I said after the game about the interception. The whole shot is there in that coverage, but you can't hesitate, right? You got to trust your instinct and rip it in there, or else you give the safety a chance to make a play. And that guy did a really good play by him. I think there's one other pass kind of forced across the middle that was in danger and could have been a turnover. And so there's definitely things he knows he's going to have to get corrected and eliminate, but then he did some really good things for us too. And so, again, the way that the flow of that game was going and the way the defense was playing, you know, you're going to be a little bit more conservative because you don't want to make a mistake, particularly deep in your own territory, and then all of a sudden you give the opponent some momentum and some life. Felt really good about the way the defense was playing and the way the plan was being executed. So it was to continue to make them try to drive the long field.
Jack.
Coach, we saw you guys, blitz the safeties and cornerbacks a little bit more. I'm sure you don't want to tip your hand going forward, but were you guys just doing anything differently as a whole defensively just this past week?
No, I think every pressure we brought had been called prior, at this point in the season. So there was nothing that hadn't shown up on film that our opponents had, seen ahead of time.
Steph.
Follow up on that with the play call on defense. Did anything change there, or was that the same as it's been all year?
Same as it's been all year.
And with the bye week, do you feel like defensively that there was a big change in kind of the game plan, the way you want to approach it, or was it just a matter of players starting to execute a bit better in that game against Arkansas?
I think we got some guys healthy that really made a difference. DeMonte Russell wasn't able to play 2 weeks prior to the bye week, and you lose a starting lineman, and that makes a difference, right? Got a couple other guys freshened up and healthy, and so the bye week came at a really good time for us. I think the defensive coaches did a really nice job of, in self-scout, identifying who are the guys consistently playing the best, what are we executing the best, right? Right? It's always about us, right? What do we do well? What can we control? And so I think they did a nice job of recognizing, all right, these are things we do well. Let's major in them as long as it fits what the opponent does schematically. And then players go to work, and then they go out and they play and they execute. And the biggest thing, I think I've said this, maybe my most consistent message in my time as head coach, but players making plays. Players playing hard. Okie Watson's performance obviously says it all, but you got Sean Preston with interception. He's the guy who knocked down the Hail Mary, I believe. I let Monte Russell know. Play better defense when your best players are fired up, excited, and play well, and you got them back healthy.
Coach, looking ahead to Auburn, I know you kind of had a chance to watch them. What kind of stands out about them, and what challenges do they bring this week?
Just their size and athleticism. They're playing really good on defense. I've always admired Coach Roberts' scheme. Watched a lot of his film over the years. So brilliant mind coordinating the defense. They got really good players. They got a couple linebackers who run and hit like I enjoy seeing football played. Linebackers and safeties. And then obviously Coach Freeze has always been a great offensive mind. The athleticism at quarterback jumps off. I know they're maybe struggling a little bit at times. Don't feel like it, but run game, very physical. Running backs are all quick and strong, but the quarterbacks present some serious problems if they pull it down and run it. And then really deep tight end group. There are 14 personnel out there with 4 tight ends, and a couple of them run like receivers, and so it's a big, strong, athletic, talented football team, which is obviously no surprise at Auburn, and so we'll have to be on our game.
Coach, looking back to the last time you guys played at Auburn 2 years ago, it was also coming off a game in Arkansas. What do you remember most about that big comeback, specifically with the way your defense is able to dig in that one?
I remember we didn't play particularly well to start the entire first half. We stunk it up, and then fortunately at halftime, something flipped. The momentum flipped. We made a couple plays on both sides of the ball, and it kind of flipped the momentum. And then it was a great comeback victory. But defensive guys, we don't like to remember a lot of them halves where you're getting your doors blown off. So that'll be a great environment, though. It's going to be a great environment.
Brian?
This may seem counterintuitive, but is it difficult to plan defensively for a team that's as one-dimensional as Auburn can be from time to time?
I don't think that's a correct statement to say that's one-dimensional. I think you got to account for different styles of quarterbacks. Both are very athletic. You got a bunch of personnel groupings and formations that they can get into off of them. When you face a team in 13 or 14 personnel, they're going to be in a heavy set one play, and the next play they might be an empty in the same personnel grouping. That creates all kinds of issues for a defense. You have to make decisions on how much you're going to try to match personnel, because if you start putting a bunch of bigger guys in, and then all of a sudden they're going an empty and throwing 4 verts, you're asking guys who aren't used to being primary pass defenders to have to play some of those roles. But I think they know they got some really talented running backs. Jarquez Hunter he's electric, man. He's a great football player. Getting the ball in his hands is always a good strategy. And so they're big, they're physical, they run it well, and we'll have our hands full to match the physicality.
Steve?
Coach, obviously things are different offensively, schematically for Auburn, but you got Will Friend, a former old Auburn assistant here. From a personnel standpoint, how can you maybe use that to your advantage to know maybe what makes guys comfortable and makes them uncomfortable?
Yeah, I don't think that's as much of a factor anymore as it used to be because of transfer portal. A lot of new faces playing for a lot of teams in college football. So I don't think there's as much of that as maybe there used to be. Talking to guys who work somewhere else and knew what the roster is like, because the rosters ain't close to the same anymore from year to year.
After the game Saturday, the players that we spoke to mentioned, your message of going 3-0 in October. I know you've talked a lot about it. How did you guys, I guess, get that message through the players of flushing that tough start in September to understand the opportunity you guys had in October?
I think simply put, right? It's excuse me. You control what you can control, and I say this every week to the team, and sometimes it gets old, but every week that is the most important game of the season on your schedule because it's the only game that you can play that week, right? Nothing that came before that can you do anything about, and nothing that comes after. So every week has to be the most important game of your season because it's the only game you can play that week. Well, we come out of September. Obviously, the results were not exactly what we wanted, but we know what our goals are and what we'd like to achieve. And the tradition we'd like to continue here. Well, it just simply put, October's an important month, right? And so the players are all competitors. They got pride. They want to have success and win, and they know in order to do that, you got to go to work. And so I just think I credit the leadership in the locker room. Right? When you got a lot of mature guys who understand, they play a lot of football, they've been on winning teams, they know it's hard in this league. And week in, week out, day in, day out, you got to show up and you got to prepare. You got to put in the work and the effort if you want to have success on Saturdays. And so I credit those guys for really leading the charge.
John?
Is there any kind of update on Will? How's he been progressing? And you know, if it is Mike Wright again this week, what's your concern level with Will's injury?
You know, every guy on our roster is a little banged up. Is same ongoing evaluation, day to day. I mean, Will's progressing just like we expect, and so if he's able to go, he's going to go. And if he's not, he's not. And I'll go for any other guy on our team. So we've got several days here to continue to evaluate and see his progress in practice, and then we'll make a determination from there.
Sean Preston came back this year, chose to come back, and how well is he taking advantage of that extra year? It seems like he's really become one of those leaders back there for you at safety.
Yeah, I'm enjoying the way Sean's playing right now. You know, I think he's got 3 picks on the season. I can remember a couple other tackles. Maybe one forced a fumble back in that Arizona game, but for him to come back and play the position he's playing for us, you know, you want to be strong down the middle of your defense, right? Obviously, Bookie's our middle linebacker. You got, you know, Pick and Crumity up there in the middle in the D-line. Obviously, you got Sean back there. You got a lot of age and experience, and so he's made some good plays for us. Plays that have changed games. A big pick in the last one on a post right there down the middle, which is what you expect a free safety to do in that coverage we were in. And we're going to need him to play even better this final stretch down the season. But you need your old guys, your best players, to play at their best, particularly late in the season, because that's when everyone is usually executing at their best.
Anything else?
Seen Bryce Pollock play a lot more snaps these last couple weeks as a true freshman. How much has he taken advantage of that opportunity?
Well, that's why you've seen increased snaps, right? That's why you take advantage of your opportunities. You play well when you're out there, and you get to see more time on the field. And so yeah, we're really happy with his development. We need our old guys to play good. Need our young guys who are getting more increased time to step up and play even better. Happy for those guys. All right, thank you all very much, Hail State.